Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty end in the green for the 7th straight session, but the gains are limited. This is the longest winning streak in the last 5 months. Rupee hits a record low against the dollar as it moves closer to the 89 mark. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says the first tranche of the India-United States trade deal should be finalized by November, adds that both sides are satisfied with progress on talks. Top officials from the EU set to arrive in India to wrap up negotiations for a free trade deal. Reuters reports that the European Union is unlikely to impose the 100% tariffs on India and China as proposed by US President Donald Trump to pressure Russia to end the Ukraine war. India's leading automakers brace for festive boost on the back of mega GST cuts. Maruti Suzuki highlights a 15% surge in customer inquiries since the announcement. M&M says that they are taking steps to ensure that dealers have enough stock. Hyundai is upbeat about the GST cuts, bringing many more first-time buyers.
सोशल मीडिया का जो कैंपेन था वो पेड कैंपेन था, वो अगेंस्ट इथेनॉल था और पॉलिटिकली टारगेट मुझे करने के लिए था.
Road Transport Minister Gadkari defends the decision to mix 20% ethanol with petrol, claims there was a paid political campaign against him which has proven false after the Supreme Court rejected petitions against E20 fuel. Tega Industries set to acquire US-based mining equipment maker Molycop for $1.5 billion. Tega will acquire 77% stake and Apollo Global will pitch in for a 23% stake. The deal is likely to help Tega's revenue grow ninefold, but also add $1 billion in debt. ChatGPT maker OpenAI signs a $300 billion deal to buy computing power from Oracle for 5 years in one of the largest cloud contracts ever signed, according to the Wall Street Journal. Oracle shares soar, making Larry Ellison the richest man in the world for a brief period. Nepal simmers days after an anti-corruption stir led by Gen Zs toppled the government. Prohibitory orders and curfews continue across the country as casualties jump to 34. Close to 15,000 inmates reportedly flee from various prisons. A scuffle breaks out outside the army headquarters between factions as protesters remain divided on who should lead the interim government. United Nations Security Council set to hold an emergency meeting after Russian drones violate Poland's airspace. This is the first major incursion on a NATO country. Poland plans to impose a no-fly zone. Charlie Kirk, a conservative commentator and an ally of US President Donald Trump, shot dead while speaking to students at a university. The manhunt for the killer continues. Trump calls it a dark moment for America. Well, let's begin with a look at the day's trading action. The Sensex and the Nifty gained for the 7th straight session, hitting the highest level in 3 weeks' time. This is the longest winning streak in the last 5 months, but the gains were limited and the mid-cap index barely managed to end in the green. The Indian rupee plunged to a new record low against the dollar. $1 now costs more than 88 rupees. In fact, the rupee is moving closer to the 89 mark against the greenback. 10-year bond remained largely steady and the yields softened marginally in trade today. Well, now on to the latest in the India-US trade negotiations. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that the first tranche of the trade deal should be finalized by November of this year. Addressing a press conference in Bihar, Goyal added that discussions have been going on since March and that both the countries are satisfied with the progress made so far. Now, this comes a day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump exchanged conciliatory messages amidst the tariff standoff.
फरवरी 2025 में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी और राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप जी ने मिलकर हमें निर्देश दिया था कि दोनों पक्ष के मंत्री फॉल 2025 यानी नवंबर 2025 तक एक अच्छा करार करें. उस करार का पहला अंश फर्स्ट ट्रैंच नवंबर 2025 तक फाइनल करें और लगभग मार्च से इस विषय पर बड़ी गंभीरता से बड़े अच्छे वातावरण में बातचीत चल रही है, प्रगति हो रही है और प्रगति से दोनों देश संतुष्ट हैं।
Now, the European Union may refrain from imposing tariffs on India and China for buying Russian oil despite US President Donald Trump's request. As per a Reuters report, EU imposes tariffs only after conducting a detailed investigation to establish a legally sound justification. The EU bloc has only imposed tariffs on Russian fertilizer and farm products in the context of the Ukraine war. Trump's request to EU came at a time when the bloc is nearing finalization of a trade deal with India. Top EU officials are set to arrive in India this week. And speaking of FTAs, major auto players like Volvo, Car India and JSW Motor India, which participated at SIAM's annual convention, have welcomed the progress on India-EU trade pact and the reset in India-China ties. Take a look.
I am very confident that I think EU-India FTA will also come out as soon as possible. We can't really say how much is done and how it will come through, but it is now very close to, I would say, conclusion. What it does, it creates a very easy supply chain on both sides. We can source parts which much more easily and then add value here and then export them back. And I think we need to see it from that perspective, how it really impacts your economy of scale.
China today is by far the most significant market for new energy vehicles. And in our path to building a sustainable mobility ecosystem in India, it would augur well for us to draw on the capabilities from China. I think the government is doing everything within its power to ensure that there is ease of doing business in India, and that is not restricted just to countries which are bordering with India. It is with every country around the world.
Now, India's top automobile companies held their annual convention in Delhi today. Union Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari inaugurated this event. Automakers are hoping for a boost in demand after the recent GST cuts. Minister Gadkari said that he has requested the Finance Minister to provide concessions for those scrapping their old vehicles and buying a new one. Minister Gadkari also defended the decision to mix 20% ethanol with petrol. Gadkari claimed there was a paid political campaign against him, which has proven false after the Supreme Court rejected petitions against E20 fuel.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी इसके बारे में बहुत साफ निर्णय हुआ है. अब जैसे आपकी इंडस्ट्री है वैसे हमारा पॉलिटिक्स भी है. तो ये सोशल मीडिया का जो कैंपेन था वो पेड कैंपेन था, वो अगेंस्ट इथेनॉल था और पॉलिटिकली टारगेट मुझे करने के लिए था. तो मैं इतना ही कहूंगा कि वो जो कुछ था उसमें कोई तथ्य नहीं था. सब बातें क्लियर हुई है.
Customers who have bought the car after 2023 April, the cars are already compatible to E20, so there should be no problem. The cars which has been sold earlier, first whatever warranty framework exists, I think all the members will really recognize that remains the same. This is not an exclusion in the warranty term. Although manual and all, there was some confusion on that, but manuals were printed, long time back. The people who have bought the cars before 2023 will have some components which are not compatible, but no impact on the engine is based on the ARI study that has come. There's hardly any impact. Some of smaller items like hoses and all over a longer period of time might get impacted, but not something which is very significant is what I would say.
Well, staying with the auto space, the leading auto car makers are bracing for a festive boost on the back of mega GST cuts. Maruti Suzuki has recorded a 15% surge in customer inquiries since the announcement. M&M, meanwhile, has said that they're taking steps to ensure that dealers have enough stock. Meanwhile, Hyundai is upbeat about GST cuts bringing in many first-time customers.
I think this is a very big reform which is happening from 22nd of September. It is not only kickstart the auto industry, but across all other industries also. Everybody is going to benefit, and the common man is going to be a big beneficiary. On the top of it, I think the two more things I would like to bring in the knowledge is, one, the benefit which was passed on through the income tax by the Honorable Finance Minister, and also I think the RBI Governor has done a very good job in terms of reducing the repo rates. So I think it's a combination now of the GST, then the benefit which is passed on through the income tax, and third is the repo rate. So I think it's going to be a bumper sales in this festival time.
I believe with the 10% cut in the smaller cars, it will bring in so many new customers. The first-time buyers, which Hyundai anyway is seeing a big jump. First-time buyers in 2020 used to be about 31%. Now they are at 39.5%. I believe we have a potential to go up to maybe 42, 43% in first-time buyers. So more small car selling. The second thing I think which will be much more significant is if you see the customer affordability remains the same in terms of how much he can spend. However, the car becomes cheaper, which means its initial signs, maybe the customers will now again go back to the higher trims, because last 1 year we are seeing that customers were moving down from higher trims to middle trims to lower trim. But now there's an opportunity because India is a very, very aspirational country.
Until 22nd, we're going to be cautious on the front.
Right. So is this going to restrict the amount of inventory you'll be able to put into system?
No, so we have taken steps to ensure that we'll still be able to meet the festive demand. So there are a few steps we are taking on the front as well. So you'll see that as it plays out. It's like I said, it's not an easy puzzle to solve for, but that's what we are here.
I think the biggest trigger for us is not the cut in the price, but this freight traffic which will increase, which will directly impact the industry in terms of needing more trucks and more buses to be able to carry these goods and passengers.
From the automobile to the FMCG industry, leaders welcomed the GST cuts. Food Processing Minister Chirag Paswan said that the tax cuts will benefit every household. Industry leaders have met the government and called for clear directives on labelling and packaging to avoid discrepancies. The government has allowed companies to continue with old MRP labelling and packaging till the 31st of December, but they must publish advertisements in newspapers with the revised selling prices.
Well, I think the most positively affected industry is the processing sector with these reforms. And I believe that this food processing sector impacts every single household. And with these tax reductions, not only every single family will be positively affected, but I think also the farmers, the people associated, every stakeholder who's associated with this sector. The sector will get an opportunity to grow. The informal sector will have more possibility to get the sector formalized.
The classical medicines used to be taxed at around 5%, which were all generic medicines, and the branded medicines, which are more high quality medicines in which we are adding value to it. The entire value chain is more improved and better quality. That was taxed higher. So it was almost a penalty. So why would a consumer go for a high price product when a low price product is available? The entire anomaly between generics and branded has been resolved from my point of view. So if you look at paratha also, unbranded paratha and a branded paratha are now going to be taxed at the same rate. So it will reduce the gap between unorganized sector and the organized sector to a great extent.
Sources are indicating to CNBC TV18 the broad intent in the government is to reducing the rates, and it is likely to propose to keep as many as commonly used items in the 5% slab.
What we are given to understand from sources is the fact that the industry has written to Finance Ministry seeking some key changes in the GST structure to expand the tax base. Well, in what could be a major overhaul of India's indirect tax regime, the government is likely to propose a simplified three-rate structure in the GST regime in the upcoming GST Council meeting, potentially eliminating the 12% slab.
The government is considering GST relief for a slew of sectors, including textile and the medical sectors.
GST Council meeting on 3rd and 4th of September will have to give an approval paving way to what PM mentioned to a two-slab structure, that is 5% and 18%, and a special rate of 40%. Well, the upcoming GST Council meeting on 3rd and 4th of September is likely to see a major GST overhaul, especially trying to give a consumption boost to the domestic economy. Firstly, a unanimous decision moving from a 4-slab structure to a 2-slab structure and a special rate, 5%, 18% to kick in from 22nd of September.
I'll give you this number which is important. 99% of all the goods and services which are touched by GST are now either in 0 or in 5 or an 18.
Kotak Mahindra Bank ended in the red after a big block deal. Japan's Sumitomo Mitsui Bank has sold 1.62% stake in the firm at 1,940 rupees a share. The block deal was worth a little over 6,250 crore rupees. The deal drew participation from leading global and domestic institutional investors, including Abu Dhabi Investment Authority and BlackRock. A quick look at the other headlines. Tega Industries has signed a term sheet to buy US-based mining equipment maker Molycorp. According to the exchange filing, the deal is valued at $1.5 billion and will be executed via a special purpose vehicle formed by Tega and Apollo funds. Tega Industries will become the controlling shareholder with 77% stake, and Apollo Global will hold 23%. The deal is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2025. And private equity player GTCR has agreed to acquire Czech generic drug maker Zentiva from Advent International in a $4.8 billion deal. Bloomberg reported that the transaction has been finalized and is expected to be announced in the coming days. The company manufactures a wide portfolio of generic and over-the-counter medicines. Shares of Aurobindo Pharma jumped over 5%. The Economic Times reported last month that the Indian drug maker was leading the race to buy Zentiva for $5.5 billion. Amazon has rolled out Amazon Now, its 10-minute delivery service for everyday essentials in select areas of Mumbai. This follows a successful launch earlier this year in Bengaluru and Delhi. Amazon India VP Sameer Kumar said that more than 100 micro-fulfillment centers have been set up across 3 cities to enable ultra-fast deliveries, and hundreds more may be added by the end of 2025. Oracle shares rallied a whopping 36% to post its best day since 1992, adding $244 billion to its market cap. The big move came after ChatGPT maker OpenAI said that it had signed a $300 billion deal to buy computing power from Oracle for 5 years. This is one of the largest cloud contracts ever signed, according to the Wall Street Journal. Rachna Dhanrajani is joining us now with more details. Rachna.
Right, $300 billion, that is the historic figure reported by the Wall Street Journal for OpenAI's cloud deal with Oracle, making it one of the largest contracts ever in the tech industry. Starting in 2027, OpenAI will spend about $60 billion a year for 5 years to secure 4.5 gigawatts of new data center capacity under Project Stargate. To put it in perspective, that much energy is enough to power more than 4 million homes. So the $300 billion, the number seems to be a part of a much larger surge in Oracle's cloud backlog. CEO Safra Katz told analysts in the call that the company's remaining performance obligations, or the RPOs, have now risen to $455 billion. She explained that this growth comes from contracts with companies including OpenAI, xAI, Meta, Nvidia, AMD, and others. She also said that this surge allows Oracle to raise its cloud infrastructure targets, projecting revenue to grow from $18 billion this year to $144 billion over the next 4 years. Oracle stock has surged, and Larry Ellison's long bet on cloud now places the company alongside Amazon, Microsoft, and Google in the AI infrastructure race. For OpenAI, this deal is ambitious and carries risk. Current revenue of the company is between $12 to $13 billion, which is just a fraction of the annual commitment they've made to Oracle. And this is after relying heavily on Microsoft's Azure. OpenAI is now spreading workloads across both Azure and Oracle, and hence formalizing a multi-cloud strategy. This deal shows how AI is changing the rules. Compute power has become the new currency, but building a data center on this scale carries financial risk, environmental challenges, and the possibility of an AI infrastructure bubble. So is this a visionary deal or a risky overreach? For now, it is both. What is certain is that the race for AI dominance is no longer just about algorithms. It's about who controls the world's most powerful computing infrastructure. Back to you.
Now, Oracle shares surged following the $300 billion deal with OpenAI. Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison briefly overtook Elon Musk as the world's richest man. After this, Ellison's wealth soared $89 billion post the Oracle results. This lifted his total net worth to $383.2 billion, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. However, Tesla CEO and SpaceX founder Elon Musk has regained the title of the world's richest man hours after the deal. Elon Musk's net worth now stands at $384 billion. And coming up on India Business Hour, Nepal simmers days after an anti-corruption stir led by Gen Z protesters toppled the government. Prohibitory orders and curfews continue across the country as casualties jump to 34. Details in just a bit. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Jio Hotstar. You are watching India Business Hour. Supreme Court has reserved its verdict on President Draupadi Murmu's rare Article 143 reference after 10 days of hearings. The case examined if courts can set timelines for governors and the president to assent to bills passed by the state legislatures. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta appeared for the centre and concluded his arguments. He contested the submissions of the opposition-ruled Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Kerala, Karnataka, Telangana, Punjab and Himachal Pradesh, which opposed this reference. The decision of the president came after the April 8th verdict of the Apex Court, which set timelines for governors in clearing bills that have been passed by the state legislatures. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted his Mauritian counterpart, Naveen Chandran Ramgoolam, in Varanasi today. The two leaders discussed development partnerships, collaboration in health, education, science and technology. India's special economic zones may soon be allowed to sell goods in the domestic market on a duty-foregone basis. Abhimanyu Sharma is here joining us now with more details. Abhimanyu.
In a bid to increase capacity utilization and expansion of special economic zones, India is mulling a proposal which aims to allow sale of goods by SEZs into the domestic tariff area, that is the domestic market, on a duty-foregone basis on inputs. Now, currently, the sale of goods by SEZs into the domestic tariff area is allowed only after payment of duties on the finished goods. It remains to be seen how early the proposal is going to see the light of the day, even as the proposal has sought immediate action to bring this proposal into effect under Section 25 of the Customs Act, instead of going by the long and circuitous route through the parliamentary process. Also, the proposal wants to retain the net foreign exchange positive status for SEZs for a period of 5 years and wants to allow reverse job work in special economic zones. However, objections remain to the proposal within the government itself, in which the objections fear that goods from SEZs may inundate the local market, which may start adversely impacting other domestic suppliers and manufacturers. However, the proposal has dismissed any such concerns and has said that there would be no such inundation available, since several SEZs are already working at high capacities and there is not much scope for them to dump into the local market. Also, they have cited several benefits which are already available to domestic manufacturers, which are going to ensure that SEZs are not going to be on an uneven footing compared to domestic manufacturers who sell in the Indian market itself. It remains to be seen how early this proposal is going to be forwarded for further approvals within the government, and more importantly, how early this is going to see the light of the day.
Right, Abhimanyu, thanks a lot for that. Now, Nepal continues to simmer days after an anti-corruption stir led by Gen Z protesters toppled the government. Prohibitory orders and curfews continue as Nepal faces political uncertainty. A scuffle erupted outside the army headquarters between factions of Gen Z protesters over who should lead the government. Now, several names, including that of former Chief Justice Sushila Karki, a rapper turned politician Balendra Shah, among others, are doing the rounds. Close to 15,000 inmates have reportedly fled from various prisons across the country. However, the Nepali army foiled several prison break attempts as well. There has been a rise in looting and arson as well. The residence of billionaire Upendra Mahato, one of Nepal's richest, was targeted as well. Over 30 people have lost their lives in the protests so far. On your screen, you can see several ministers and their family members being airlifted by choppers as they try to escape from protesters. United Nations Security Council is set to hold an emergency meeting tomorrow. The meeting comes days after Russian drones reportedly violated Poland's airspace while attacking Ukraine. The meeting has been endorsed by several other members of the Council, including Britain, France and Slovenia. This was the first serious incursion into a NATO country on part of Russia. And turning now to the conflict in Gaza, the Palestinian death toll in Gaza has risen to more than 64,000. The Israeli military said that at least 200,000 Palestinians were forced to flee Gaza city. In a CNN interview, Qatar's Prime Minister slammed Israel's strike on Doha as barbaric and state terror. He added that it killed hopes for hostage release and forced Qatar to rethink its role as a mediator. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, however, accused Qatar of providing safe haven and financing to Hamas. A massive manhunt is underway after conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot dead while addressing students at a university in Utah. Videos showed spectators screaming and running for cover after the shooting. Kirk, a close ally of President Donald Trump, was known for mobilizing young Republican voters. President Trump called Kirk a patriot and said that his death was a dark moment for America. He assured action against the perpetrators. Former US President Joe Biden and Barack Obama also condemned the shooting. American aircraft maker Boeing has reached a tentative agreement with its union workers after a 5-week strike at its defense factories. About 3,200 workers who build fighter jets had walked out in August, demanding higher pay. Under the new contract, workers would get an average pay hike of 45%, including a guaranteed 24% raise and a $4,000 bonus. The deal is yet to be approved and might be approved on Friday. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18.